Hey, welcome back to the KB Money Show. This episode 4. Hey, baby, we rocking and rolling, man. Hey, it's Sunday. We typically record on Saturdays, but we needed to push it back, and you will probably be seeing this recording. I don't know, probably what Tuesday, Monday, Tuesday, after we do some edits, some little light edits for you, to make sure it looks good for you. But hey, man, let's get in there, man. Let's not waste no time. Let's before we dive into our topic, let's you had an eventful weekend, so I'm gonna kick it over to you. Oh, by the way, my co-host slash guest, Keon, uh,
Yep,
and me, KB. So, man, how was your week, and specifically your weekend? I know you was about to get
man.
into it, and I was like, hey, wait.
Yes, sir. So, yep, Keon here. Thankful to be on the fourth episode of the KB Money Show. Yeah. So in terms of my week, I had a pretty good week actually. Me and my girl, we just getting things ready. We're about to make a transition. We're about to move because she is going to be attending med school, and so I'm not gonna say which one, because I don't know if I'll let her make her announcement. You know how it is, so I'm gonna let her announce which one. But it's that one. I'm gonna put it like that. It's that one. But so long story short, we had to drive to that one because we have to get housing so that we can attend that one. Because we can't be attending that one homeless. We have to get housing, and so something that I'm learning is that how housing markets can vary because just because it's easy to get housing in one market might not mean it's so easy to get housing in another. There's you have to learn. You have to talk to someone who's in the know within that market so that you can know how to operate the right way. Because we just happen to, long story short, we've been looking for an apartment and the prices are crazy. That's one thing. But first of all, it's you gotta jump through a lot of hoops to get approved. And then spots are just gone. Like most people are looking for spots in September, but they're looking for it like a year ago. You know what I'm saying? We were kind of late to the game because we didn't really know where we are going to go yet. And so
Right.
it is what it is. We still say, hey, we got to find something. We got to figure out something. No, we got to figure out something. And so this is where me and her was talking about this, and I told her, for all the listeners out there, I want you, take something away from the story. Take this away. Just being a good person pays off. I know it's like with duh, of course, but when I say that, I mean being a good person, even when it doesn't directly benefit you, like just being a good person and just building up your network. You know what I'm saying? Just building up a network of good people as well, and and doing good for them. Because later on down the line, you might not know how, but in some type of way, it'll return back to you. And so that's powerful. One of her friends that had lived in that city because they went to that same school and they're now in Philly. So it's kind of doing the reverse of what we're doing. But she knew, she said, wow, that housing market is brutal. I know I struggle getting a place. I struggle. And so I tell you what, I had, and mind you, my girl, she didn't bring this up. The other person brought this up. She said, hey, how you doing? Blah, blah, blah. And so she said on her own, she took the initiative. She took the initiative and said, I'm gonna hook you up with my realtor. I had this really nice realtor. She's amazing, and she helped me get a place. And so that's I remember you mentioned the book Who Not How. That's the live example of who not how right there. Because we was racking our brain trying to figure out the how, couldn't really figure it out much, but the who, that solved a lot for us because it's also a matter of timing too that we were blessed because not only did we have our who, the timing lined up perfectly because the realtor called and said, what's funny? It's funny you called me today, or it's funny because she actually called us first. She says, funny that your friend told me about you because I just had a couple tell me that they're moving out of their place today. Like they just called and said they're graduating and they're about to move out. So I have a spot, blah, blah, blah. These are the details. And so just to have someone that is willing to help us find a spot and is willing to work with us because, we were recommended by a pretty respectable friend. This friend wouldn't just send anybody to the realtor's way. So the realtor knows that we're serious. And she was very kind. She knows what it was like to search. She knows it's hard to find an apartment in that area. And so the area is very nice. I'm not going to get into too much on the apartment because, the deal is about 90% done. But, we ain't going to let me get it to 100%. Then y'all might mess around and get a home tour. But hey, let's get it locked down. but it's very nice. And nice or not, it's really it was to the point where it's like we were gonna take anything. I mean, not anything, but it's like, especially given the location of it, where she'd be able to walk to class, we'll take anything. We'll make anything work, you know. Especially the first year, we'll make anything work. And
Right.
so that was my weekend. So to get into the specifics, I drove. I'm not gonna say the specific locations, but let's just say I drove 5 hours. Woke up at 6 a.m. on Saturday and drove 5 hours to the city. And then we drove around the city for about 5 hours. Once we were there, I mean, we went to the downtown area, went to the school area. We went to just a couple different neighborhoods. It's one thing seeing these places when you're going apartment searching online, you're reading the neighborhood, you pull up the little map. It's one thing to see it like that, but to actually stand in the neighborhood and see the trees and see the park and see the type of people that's around. It's
Right.
you have to go visit the place before you move there, I believe. At least to get an idea and to start planning.
Right.
Um, and so we enjoyed it. And then when the realtor showed us the place, it was nice. We did all the paperwork, boom, boom, boom. And she just said, hey, everything looks good. I'll get back with the landlord. And as soon as we showed up, the realtor said, let me text the landlord and tell them to take this off the market, to stop showing this place to other people. Because places go just like that. You gotta be quick. And
Right.
so when I say timing, we could have called the realtor yesterday or the next day, and she could have easily been like, sorry, I would really love to help you, but I don't have anything right now, but I'll keep you in mind. But we just happened to call, that exact day. So that was good. But we liked the place, and then we went to go eat right afterwards because we was hungry. And then afterwards we drove right back because this trip wasn't a vacation. Now we were there to handle business. So
Right.
drove right back. And of course, on the way there or before the trip, me and my girl were like, oh yeah, we'll split up the driving, we'll split up the driving. But I'm not saying this to complain because honestly, it was my choice. I said, you know what? I think I'm just gonna handle all the driving. I started because in my mind, I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm a little tired. Maybe I'll. I look over. She got the flitter and eyes. I said, yeah, I think I can tough it out. That woke me up. I said, yeah, I think I can. I think I like my chances. I'm gonna just let her rest. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna let her rest. So, but I mean, I made the drive though. I made the drive, and I was driven longer. Not saying that I want to drive 5 hours, but I know I can manage it. Um, made it back safely. That's always a blessing. Safely, and here we are back today. So now we're just waiting on the formal, the formalities, the next steps. Like let's go ahead and get the
Yeah.
lease and all that signed or whatnot. But once that's done, yeah,
It's official.
we'll just, yeah.
Wow. Okay. Yes. All right. So that was your week. That was your Saturday. Uh I take it that you probably slept in too, right?
Honestly, she's still knocked out, but I probably woke up about, I don't know, maybe like 9, maybe 9:10. I probably went to sleep about, because we made it in about 2 a.m. Probably went to sleep about 3:30 ish, but probably woke up about like 7, 8. Because for some reason, I don't know if it's because of work or what, but I started waking up early, and I don't need the alarm to wake up no more. I don't know. Maybe it's one of them seasons where I'm just getting up early.
Right. Right. Yeah, man. Okay. Yeah. So for me, yeah, man, just workflow. Uh right now, going on vacation the last 2 weekends. Uh the last 2 weeks of May. So I'm like, it's grind season right
Uh,
now. So I'm like trying to knock out a lot of stuff in preparation before I leave. Still gonna be recording, bringing my stuff, but and so just trying to knock that out. And then also taxes, right? So like,
mm,
so I went and met with the CPA yesterday. With the CPA yesterday. We talked for about an hour and a half, 2 hours, but then I had some stuff I needed to take care of. And so I did that yesterday. I worked out, met up with one of my boys. We had coffee. Then I came back for a few hours because I had some stuff I had to gather for taxes. One of them being, yeah, man. Hey, man. Hey, be careful what you ask for. So we talk about, leveling up. We talk about leveling up and making more money and all that. And I guess it depends on how you look at it. Man, we made the most we ever made, and we paid the most we ever paid in taxes. So got a
Bingo.
good, got a good old $35,000 tax bill. Yeah,
Whew.
but but
That's
that's how
me.
it is though. When you make more money, you're gonna have, you have to pay more in taxes. And so, but anyway, so had to make that payment over the weekend. Had to go ahead and submit that payment, but then also working with.
So how does that work? So tell us, because so for some of us, we so used to, I'm used to, oh, they sending me money. So tell us, what does that look like? Like, oh snap, I actually have to give them money. Like, did you write a check? Did you do? How did you do that?
Oh no, you just go online and you send your bank. You could write a check, but I just I did that's what we did last year. So I just paid it um through the account. You put in your routing number, and it ain't no conspiracy. They not gonna be trying to draft out of your account unnecessarily.
Right,
Whatever amount you
right.
put down, that's what they're gonna draft. You just got to make sure it's in there. And so yeah, so it'll be coming out shortly here. But I was excited though because I was talking to the CPA, and he was like, "Look, your job is to make as much money as possible, and my job is to help you navigate it. And so a part of help you
I
navigate.
like that.
You know what I'm saying? So he like we'll figure out the tax stuff later. Like
Yeah.
he said, and then part of it is he said with some things that you're doing, business stuff, he's like, I'll make sure you're maximizing your business write-offs and things of that nature, along with your job, and I'll make sure we work on that this year moving forward. He said, but he said that he said that's just what it is. You make more money, you're gonna pay more in taxes. So I look at it as a blessing to be able to do it. Because you can easily say, "Oh man, I gotta pay," type of thing. But it's like
Right.
actually the fact that
Yeah.
we gotta pay that much means that sure there's some extra tax planning we can do and kind of mitigate maybe a little bit more. But it just kind of show you like, oh, y'all must have made a little bit of money, huh? So
Right.
so pretty excited about that. Not excited about writing the check, but I'm excited that we made more money.
Right.
But I don't feel any type of way about it. But yeah, man. What else? Yeah, no, that's pretty much it. We watched the Cat Williams last night on
You got a
Netflix.
new one?
Yeah, the new one. We watched that last
Uh,
night. That was
I'm gonna check it out.
Yeah, that was
Shoot.
interesting. I was kind of going in and out, but uh, but yeah, that was my weekend. Um, but yeah, man. All right, so let's dive in there. Let's get into it. Is this gonna be interesting? Let me pull it up. So the first thing we're gonna cover. Oh, and by the way, this is sponsored by Level Careers. If we're talking about making more money, right? So like if you're looking to make more money, check out Level Careers. Use the coupon code Ken for a discount. Check it out. If it makes sense for you in the tech space, uh, sign up to the course, the master classes, and put in that code Ken, and get you a nice little discount. All right, so let's get into it. So first, we're gonna start off. My biggest thing is, I want to educate y'all too. Yeah, we talking about the economy, personal finance, family, and, all things. So from a holistic standpoint, but I always like to keep y'all abreast of what's going on in the market, like in the economy. And so I'm about to do a screen share, and what we gonna talk about Apple earnings featuring $110 billion buyback boost and China upside sending stock 6% higher. So doing my screen share here, and we're gonna talk about Apple for a minute. Can you see my screen?
I can see it.
Yep, bam, there it is. So everything you need to know about Apple's earnings. So let's learn together. All right. So everything to know about Apple. So report down to one number. Let's start with the biggest. The company is boosting its buyback program by 110 billion. For context, Apple increased it by 90 billion a year ago. The buyback announcement paired with a 4% hike to the company's quarterly dividend, which will become 25 cents a share. Another notable factor, uh, another notable factor was the company's China business remains in decline, but not by as much as expected. Apple's Greater China region generated 16.4 billion in revenue, down from 17.8 billion a year ago. Analysts, though, were fearing 15.3. These some big dog numbers.
Right.
All right,
Man.
services marked a high point for Apple as a segment raked in record revenue of 23.9 billion, which compared with the 23.1 billion consensus view. The company came up short on iPhone. That's what I wanted to get to, like the iPhones. And however, reporting 46 billion in revenue, down from 51.3 billion a year ago. Apple previously signaled to investors to expect a decline of roughly that magnitude since the prior year's period benefited from meaningful pent-up demand. Still, analysts were looking for a bit more. Consensus was for 46.3 billion. All right, cool. All right, here's how Apple's management addressed their broad concern. Now, and let me take a step back too. You can tune into the earnings call and you will hear a lot of this information, and it's good like when you're trying to understand, especially like if you're looking to invest in stock or individual companies. You want to tune into those earning calls to understand what's going. You got to look at yourself like an investor. So the whole purpose of me reading this to you, you have to look at yourself like an investor, and so you got to start thinking like an investor. And so when you listening to these earning calls, listen not for entertainment, but listen to like, I'm a potential investor, or you might actually have shares that you holding. And so you are essentially an owner in a company. So that's just for context. All right. So
Right.
here's how Apple's management addressed this broad concern on margins. So let's talk about the margin. Apple's 46.6 gross margin for March quarter was a level that company hadn't seen in decades. But there's been broad concern about the impact of the rising commodity cost on gross margins. Morgan Stanley analyst noted on the earning calls, and also on those earning calls, you will hear Morgan Stanley, because the Morgan Stanley and other analysts on the call that's representing large investment firms, because they hold a lot of shares. And so they're asking the CEO, the CEO, the COO, the CMO, different questions, the executives team questions of like, they're asking them like really good questions. You could really get an education when you're just listening in, and then the questions that follow in those earning calls, you're like, oh man, that was a good question. And so you learn a part of those calls too. So right now there's concerns around the gross margins for Apple. All in all, Apple's management said it sees itself in good shape for this cycle. They expect their margin in June to be between 45.5 to 46.5 margin. All right, so this is interesting. And if you're wondering, AI, because that's the other part, like with a lot of these tech companies, uh, people are listening in, like sometimes people are listening to like what are people doing with AI? Like, are they integrating it in, or how are they innovating? And so at Microsoft, at Apple reveals R&D spending over the last 5 years, but they don't really say much about the AI, because that's what people want to know. People want to know like, what is Apple doing in the AI realm? Like, because that's going to speak to what's going on today. So Apple spent over 100 billion over the last 5 years in R&D. And so like when you start looking at balance sheets and you can look at it, you'll see that that's what they spent. We've obviously, so according to Maestri, hopefully I'm saying that right, when they're talking about generative AI, we obviously are pushing very hard on innovation on every front, and we've been doing that for many, many years. Just doing the last 5 years, we spent, yeah, we talked about that. I'm gonna push through some of this. Another analyst asked that asks how they should think about AI in the big picture for Apple since its potential overhang for investors. CEO Tim Cook, he's the CEO, by the way, if you didn't know, responded with mostly none answers because he did not want to upstage Apple's coming news in June. Generative AI and AI both are big opportunities for us across our products. We'll see. And so it sounds like they may be up to something, but they ain't really talking about it right now. So more to come there. Apple expects low single digit growth rate this quarter. But we could skip past that. So uh let me see here. Yeah, we could skip that. See if there's anything else interesting in here. You know. And you should be doing this yourself too when you're checking this stuff out. Mac Business Sports, surprise growth, but iPad sales sag. So 7.5 billion in March to post surpass growth. That was up by 7.2 billion a year before last year. Analysts, meanwhile, were expecting only 6.8. Okay. The iPad business, meanwhile, logged a 17% revenue decline to 5.6 billion. Analysts were looking for 5.9 billion. So that's the other thing too. When you're just hearing all these different numbers and when you're listening into the earnings call, if you're not, if you don't have an understanding of the business from like previous performance and what they've done, they're really good at storytelling. So like if you're on an earnings call, you would have thought that everything just went well, and you're like, wait, y'all down in every category. Like, how did you spin that? And so that's the other thing that you start to learn when you're listening to these earning calls too. And then like if you're looking at the balance sheet, previous balance sheets, and you're like, or you listening to previous earning calls, you're like, actually, you didn't deliver on what you said you was going to deliver on. And so now you're kind of spinning it in a positive, and framing it in a way where it sounds like everything was all good. But now let's talk about let me see if is there any gross margin, right? So iPhones. So Apple's gross margin rises by iPhone miss. Apple's iPhone gross margin in the fiscal second quarter rose from the year ago period, likely due to strength in its highly profitable service business. You know, Apple said its gross margin in March quarter were 42.3 billion, or about 46.7% of revenue minus the cost of goods sold, up from 44.26 year ago quarter. The company said it had another all-time record revenue in services. Apple's shares continue to rise in after-hours trading, were up about 7% ahead of the company's call with analysts. Apple stock could see its biggest gain in a year and a half. So it sounds like people are bullish. And sound like Apple was generating some pretty good money on their service revenue side.
Right.
Yeah, on their service. The upside of services was key as Apple fell short with its product revenue, okay, which came in at 66.9. Analysts were expecting 67.3. Okay. All right. All right. So we talked about the dividend. All right. Apple misses on iPhone sales, but beats with China performance. So they missed on their iPhone sales. The company brought in 46 billion in revenue from its iPhone segment, down from 51.3 billion a year ago. Talked about that. Apple previously disclosed that the year earlier benefited from strong pent-up. We talked about that. Data points are mixed. Apple service could be a bright spot, a potential down mark. Okay. Apple is set for more margin expansion, but how long can that last? Okay. So this is what I'll get to. Apple is one of the Magnificent Seven's two laggards this year. Only two members of the Magnificent Seven are in the red this year, and Apple stock is one of them. It's off 10% so far in 2014, and only Tesla's stock down 27% is doing worse. The sluggish.
Oh wow.
So you heard some of the things I was talking about, like up and down, but overall it seemed like it was trending, right? Like trending positively well. This is when you start understanding how you like from a holistic picture, you like, oh wow, like, and that's why you gotta like keep digging through the information. The sluggish performance to start the year comes from Apple shares gained 48% in 2023 to log its best annual increase since 2020. But sentiments might be getting better. JP Morgan analyst. So anyway, so it's just talking about the Magnificent Seven and how Apple is one of the Apple, as you can see, Apple and Tesla are kind of lagging in the performance. But you wouldn't know that if you aren't, paying attention. How would you know to pay
Right.
attention? And so that's why we bringing it to you. That's why we bringing it to you here. Apple stock is having its worst start to a year in more than a decade. Apple stock has suffered through its biggest percentage decline over the first 4 months of a year in more than a decade. In terms of monthly losing streaks, it's the worst start in 28 years. The last time the stock started a year with declines in each month through April was 1996 when it fell 21.4% during the 4 month stretch. Still very early in May, but the stock has gained 1.2% so far this month. It hasn't started a year with a 5 month losing streak since 1985 when it plunged 38.5%. All right, so let's see. Let's see what happens with Apple. Again, they just talking about they were quiet on AI, but didn't say nothing. So it sounds like they may have some up their sleeve. We'll see. Anyway, so
Mhm.
just wanted to share that. Don't want to go get into any of this. Y'all can check out. It's on Market Watch. You know, talking about Apple. I'm just saying if there's anything else. But just from your perspective, as we close on this one, I just wanted to bring some insight on the recent earning call with Apple. Just kind of give me some insight on what's going on with Apple from an innovation standpoint. And you being an Apple user, what have you seen so far? Uh, have I stopped? Can you see my screen?
Yeah, I can still see it.
All right. So how do I stop sharing? Okay, right there. Stop sharing. So I'll share back in a minute. So just from an innovation standpoint, what have you seen over the years? You being a Apple user, you got the Mac, you got the iPhone. On the product side, what have you seen? Just from a hey, look, man, Hey, man, I'm not some economic expert. Just from what I've observed, just from me being a user of their products.
I'm gonna say, for me, the products are pretty good, but honestly, and of course, people talk about how they built the ecosystem to where everything works together. I like that they do it on the product side and the software side. I just like the way that
Hmm.
everything works together. And I'll give a specific example. Like, I'm more so into, I graduated in marketing, but I really like the way that I'm also interested in product management and design and like UI and UX, that type of stuff. I'm just interested, like how do because all of it is the same thing at the end of the day in terms of what does the customer want and how do we get it to them? How do we fix it for them? It's about the customer.
Right.
It doesn't really matter what we want. And so I had an idea. And I've had this idea for a while. I was like, man, you know what? Whenever you call somebody and they don't answer, what happens? You get a message, and then you get the option to leave a voicemail. I thought to myself, whenever I FaceTime somebody and they don't pick up, it would be smart to have a similar option to be able to just leave a video message. And I
Mm.
was like, man, Apple's tripping. They should have been did something like that. I just already knew in my head, ain't nobody did this yet. Someone should do it. And I'd be darned if I didn't pick up my phone like later that day or the next day. And I called someone, they didn't pick up. I seen a button that said record. I said, what that? Oh, wow. Okay. So there is, so clearly someone had to, because you used to not be able to do that. And I know someone might be like, oh, well, Android already. That's not the point. The point is that there's somebody that's thinking these things through, like, someone had the same thought that I did. Like, well, if they didn't pick up, maybe I had something I wanted to say. Maybe I can still say it on the video, like little things like that. Like the fact that, and sometimes for better or for worse, we see that with other companies or other apps or products we like. Like I feel like with certain apps, like I'll use YouTube for instance. Like they'll come up with an update and they'll be like, man, I really liked it. Why did they update it? Why did they change it? I liked it that certain way. But on the flip side, you can't get mad at people for innovating, but also praise it. You have to pick one. And so I'm like, well, I like a company that isn't afraid to continue to try to change things up to grow.
Okay. All right. Well, that is your update on Apple as it relates to the economy. I got one more that I want to talk about as it relates to the economy. And the reason that so the Fed just spoke this past week, and the Fed, Jerome Powell, so there won't be any rate cuts. And so let me do a screen share again. Do another screen share with this article I found. As you can see, I stay reading and learning, so just bringing some of it to you all as well, so we can learn together and bring you up to speed to what's going on. Maybe you was working at the job, and so you ain't have time to look what was going on this week, but we got you. So interest rates could be high for much longer. Here's what it means for your finances. So everything we talk about is going to tie back to the finances in some way. All right, cool. So the Federal Reserve has forecast interest rates cuts that will deliver much needed relief for Americans burdened by high mortgage and credit card loans. So as I mentioned, Fed this past week, Fed Chair Jerome Powell, he's the Fed chair, so educate yourself on cast doubt on whether those rate cuts would arrive after all. The Fed needs to gain greater confidence that inflation is headed towards an acceptable level. As y'all know, interest rates is high right now. The prospect of high interest rates for a longer period of time could exacerbate the financial pain already imposed by elevated borrowing costs, making loans expensive even as consumers still weather elevated prices, experts told ABC News. Americans with savings accounts and cash accounts, naturally, they're getting decent returns because they're getting higher interest on their money. But what this article is saying that it's probably the people that are truly benefiting from it is people that they use well off people, but basically probably higher net worth individuals. Because if you got $2,000 in there and you're getting 5%, it's better than nothing, but it's not going to equate to anything significant. But it hit a little bit different if you got 10 million just sitting there, or 5 million just sitting there, you will see 5%, could make a bigger difference.
Right.
Everyday people are suffering the most. A financial advisor and managing partner shared. Not only are the high interest rates gobbling up their excess income, but inflation is really killing them on everyday items. The Fed decided to hold its benchmark interest rate steady at a meeting on Wednesday, citing a lack of recent progress in price increases. Inflation has fallen significantly from a peak of 9.1%, but it remains more than a percentage point higher than the Fed's target rate of 2%. Since last July, the Fed funds rate has stood between 5.25% and 5.5%, matching its highest level in more than 2 decades. Over that period, borrowing costs have risen for everything from credit cards to student loans to mortgages. By the end of 2023, Americans held more than $1 trillion in credit card debt, which marked a record high, according to a report released by the Federal Reserve Bank of New York in February. And you can go to their site too and look up reports and things like that, just so you know. As of Wednesday, average credit card interest rate stood at a staggering 20.6%. So,
Dang.
bro, like, imagine carrying a balance. Like, imagine being $30,000 in debt, in credit card debt, and it's got 20.6% interest rate on it, and you just paying the minimum. You never gonna pay that thing off.
I would love to be the credit card company in that case. Shoot. You give me that 20%.
Yep. Having interest rates higher for a longer period of time is going to hurt people who have a lot of credit card debt. See, that's my point. See, yeah. You're gonna be going through it, So we gotta, that's why we encourage folks, hey man, clear that debt. And if you don't make enough money to snowball that debt, we might need to focus on finding ways for you to make more money. Shameless plug, level careers, hey, man, look, it's only one or two ways to it's you can either you can only cut so much out of your budget and but if you already like because things are getting more expensive. So like if you've already cut where you could, but then the same stuff that you're already buying with your current income, which isn't necessarily going up, things are just getting more expensive. Like it's just eating into your budget. And so you're like, things are increasing and you're trying to cut. And so it's like you can only cut so much. It's like, I just need to make more money. But what does that look like? And so, you have to put together a plan to figure out what that is. Like we all are faced with that. Make more money. Like we gotta make more money. But then there is the other aspect of it's important to make the money, but then also be a good steward of the money too, so you can keep more of your money. But if you don't make a lot of money to begin with, then it's like you don't have enough money to invest. You don't have enough money to necessarily pay down all your debt. And so I want to be mindful, like, and not be tone deaf to that because that's definitely a thing. Something you mentioned about housing, of course, you guys are going to rent, but it's very difficult for first time home buyers to get into a property. It's definitely not the easiest because with the mortgage rates going up, folks' payments are going to be high, and so sometimes some people are priced out, and also like if they can get into it, have did you do just enough to get into the house and then you can't afford like you in there and now you can't afford nothing like and everything has to go perfect while you living in there like no emergency scenarios that come up and life is going to happen, right? So like you got this house, you strapped and it's taking all your income. They call it house rich cash poor. You can't afford for nothing else to happen or you just can't afford nothing else, period. Like you can't afford to go out and have a good time, you can't afford to travel, like, and so finding that balance point of like you gotta make more money, man, you gotta keep up with this inflation. So they talking about the high yield savings account, we talked about that. Yeah, but I just want to hit that. You got any thoughts just from your perspective, especially from a Gen Z perspective, when you hearing these things, what are your initial reactions?
I think I think it's important that people try to stay aware. Like I said, we're not asking people to be super sophisticated because it feels like because I feel like for me sometimes if I feel like I'm not going to understand it, I might shy away from it or just focus on something else. But like I said, it's stuff's too important to not at least try to because I feel like back in the day growing up, if you tell me if it was the same for you, but I feel like growing up it was very normal to see your parents watching the news, trying to stay at least somewhat informed. And I don't know if people do that anymore, but this is just a financial version of doing that. You just watching the news, watching articles, and so like I said, the reason why I say you don't have to be so sophisticated is because I mean, take us. We basically we just normal people here. We're not professors. We're not financial advisors. We're just trying to make sense of this stuff and make the best decisions for us and our families. And so even me, I went to the best business school in the country. And like I said, I'm hearing these terms and it's flashing me back to finance class. And I'm like, oh, this I ain't heard that word since and all, you know what I'm saying? It's a Fed funds rate and all that. So, oh, I don't know if I got that answer right on the test, but like I said, even with me having taken that class, even I'm still like, I remember that stuff. But let me Google real quick, Fed funds rate, what that mean? And so we're not asking you to know everything, but know enough to be dangerous and know enough to where, okay, you can start making decisions for your household, and you can start trying to predict where things might go. Like, okay, you can start trying to play things out in your head. Like, okay, well, if things keep going the way this article says, a year or two down the line, this is how things might be. So this is what I should do. Or if things go the other way, this is how I can also play it. So just, arm yourself with knowledge.
Yeah, facts. Yeah. So speaking of that, I think it'd be a good segue because I got another article. So we talking about personal finances, right? And we talk about making more money, but let's just say you are making decent money. Um, which way I want to go. I'm trying to think of which way I want to go with this. So I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna share my screen again. So actually, I want to go in this direction. Uh, yeah, I'm gonna go in this direction. Uh, and I'm gonna fire them off. We're not gonna spend a long time on this, but 9 services that poor people spend on that the rich and middle class don't.
I like this.
We're not gonna spend a lot of time here, and like, so I'm gonna just fire them off. Fire them off. And if it resonates with you, hey, we got some work to do. High fee checking accounts. Lower income people
Mm.
often cannot keep a high enough balance in their checking account to waive any monthly fees. That's a sign that we got to get our money. Taxis and ride shares. Lower income people often need to rely on public transportation. If they live in a city with unreliable transportation or limited service, they'll need to shell out funds for a costly taxi or ride share across the city. Someone said that they spend nearly $200 a month on ride shares. Heck, well, that's still cheaper than a car note with the gas,
Yeah,
with the insurance, and the
that's what I'm
maintenance.
saying.
So
That's
I'm
what I'm saying.
so I'm actually I hear what they're saying, but at the same time,
Yeah.
I'm gonna challenge that one a little bit right now. Just I'm gonna challenge that one a little bit. Um, if they only spend $200 a month now, uh, so I'm a pawn shops, thrift store.
Mm. Oh, the thrift stores is interesting. Wow.
When I saw the thrift stores, I don't. Let me see where they're going with this. Uh, the pawn shops. Yeah, I don't ever go to no pawn shop. That's why many lower income individuals rely on pawn shops, uh, or thrift stores. They offer a way to stretch their dollars further, but it can sometimes mean sacrificing quality, a choice compared to higher end retailers. He said, "Okay, uh, thrift stores, eh." Because I mean, you might find some gems in thrift stores. So I don't want to,
Yeah.
but the pawn shops, yeah, I never go to pawn shop. And and so what they're probably referencing is like when people are pawning things and then hoping they're gonna come back and get it, but because
Right.
they need to bridge themselves until the next check come. But what ends up
I
happening,
know.
you probably rarely ever get a chance to get back to the black to actually go and buy the thing back.
Mm,
You usually stay in the red.
interesting. Yeah, I never really thought about that part of the pawn shop. Because I've never been to one either, but I always just knew it as a place to go just basically sell your things. I just always looked at it, you basically selling it. Like I never ever thought that people would go take their items there and ever hope to get it back.
Yeah. Yeah. Interest and cash advance fees. Lower income people often live check to check when money is so tight that bills cannot be paid on time. They often need to rely on payday loans and cash advance services with extremely high interest rates. It's dang near predatory.
Yeah.
Sometimes folks with lower income find themselves in a tough spot financially, perhaps due to not having access to traditional banks or facing challenges with their credit history. Yeah, if their credit not right, you're gonna pay more car insurance. Uh, if you can afford a home, you're gonna pay more. You're gonna have a higher rate. Yeah, all the things. Yeah, so we got to stop using those check cashing spots if that's resonating with you. If it's not, then it doesn't apply. Rent to own stores. Imagine needing the new fridge or sofa, but not having the credit score to finance it traditionally. If you rent it in that place, that interest gonna be high. When you can't pay all at once and credit's not an option, it's a way to fill your home without waiting. It does end up costing more because sometimes you don't have the luxury of choices.
Right.
We recommend paying cash for those type of things, saving up the money till you can get it. Processed foods. Lower income people often work multiple jobs and want to minimize meal prep time. Therefore, they often buy frozen or processed foods that take a minimal amount of prep time. when I was making a lower income and working two jobs, my diet was higher in processed foods. I remember in college, boy, all that processed food we used to be eating, man. And you know
Yeah.
what's crazy? I actually can empathize here a little bit because you don't know what you don't know. You think you eating healthy in the like the thing Nutri-Grain bar. I thought that was healthy.
They tell you it is though.
No. Uh
Cereal.
cereal. That's just a dessert with milk.
Right, yep.
Uh
What else?
what else frozen stuff I used to get? Hot Pocket. I remember we used to smash them Hot Pockets. Uh man, just just crazy stuff that now when you look back, you like, man, I cannot believe I thought that was healthy. Man, that's crazy.
Chips.
Just processed food, man. Grocery delivery services.
Mm,
Lower income people are often short on time, so they may opt to have their groceries delivered. When I was on a lower income and did not have access to a vehicle, I spent an additional $50 a month on grocery delivery fees.
yep. I used to use one of these. I mean, but this was back when I was in undergrad, and it didn't really make sense for me to have a car because I lived 10 minutes from the campus, or 10 like a 15-minute walk. So I know I wasn't really parking on campus like that. But I guess it depends on your area. If you live in an area where it makes sense to have a car, it really don't make sense to have unless you're just that busy. You don't need no delivery service fee, but I mean, you don't need to get no delivery service like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Housing costs. I talked about that one. Uh, because it's gonna be expensive. Renting an apartment can definitely be more convenient than home ownership in terms of repairs and maintenance, but landlords also have to make a living and you're the one who's paying for it. They always say that. Like that's that narrative that they always trying to paint to have you go into home ownership. Nothing wrong with it if you're ready for it. Now, this is the part to be mindful of. If you do manage to buy a house, you'll probably be stuck paying for private mortgage insurance if you don't put down at least 20%. So that's something to be mindful of there because basically you are paying for the insurance so the bank can be protected. Like
Mm,
think about that. Like, and the fact that you're making payments on it, let's be clear. Anytime that you have debt, anytime you owe somebody money, I got something for you. The rich, Proverbs 22:7-9. We're going to church for a quick minute. The rich rules over the poor, and the borrower is slave to the lender. Remember that.
mm.
Remember that. The borrower is always slave to the lender. Insurance coverage. You got bad credit, you definitely they're gonna hit you, they're gonna get you with them auto and renter insurance policy. You're going to pay more. That's just a fact. Insurance coverage. No need to read that. But yeah, so when you hear those things overall, those are the 9 things that poor people use. Some of them were kind of debatable. That's why we added a little commentary to it. Um, but what are your thoughts overall when you're hearing that?
Something, I don't know if people talk about this enough, but people always say money. We always hear people talk down on money or the desire of money is root of all evil. But something that one of my takeaways from hearing these is that money is almost like a shield. Money can shield you from having to deal with certain predators.
Mm,
Predators can smell. It's crazy. It's almost like you would think, nah, if I'm a criminal or if I'm a scammer, I'm going after the big fish because that's where the money's at. But nah, I can just become really good at snatching up these little fishes. I don't know if I could steal $1,000. I don't know if I could steal 100, but I see a bunch of $10 bills that nobody would notice if they went missing.
mm,
You know what I'm saying? And so one thing I noticed is that when you're poor and you don't have as much money, like I said, you become more vulnerable to these type of things, and you will let like especially on that last one, you was talking about the PMI. I knew about it, and I've always heard about private mortgage insurance, but just for some reason, the way you broke it down, it made me think we let these banks and big companies, we let them do stuff that we would never let fly, like on a personal level. Like, could you
Right.
imagine a friend taking out a loan from you and saying, "Hey, by the way, I'm worried you might not pay it back. So can you give me another $10, by the way?" Like, man, huh? So, but when you broke, you feel like you don't have options. And maybe the audience can y'all relate to this? Leave a comment. I don't know, but tell me, for some reason, I think that when a man or just a human period, when they're broke, it it can really do something to you, and it can drive you to do some things that you would not normally do. Well, at least when you perceive that you're broke, I'll put it like that, because you might be up. What you're broke might be someone else's rich, but to you, in your mind, once if you find that you're broke, you start acting broke, and that's why the
Mm.
predators are able to say, he think he broke, so he's want to spend some money to try to get something that don't exist. He's trying to get the money to try to shortcut the process. Come here,
He said, "Come here." That might be the title. Are you acting
come
broke?
here.
Acting broke? Like we'll play around with that.
Okay,
That might be
come.
that might be the episode title. Interesting. Yeah. Any what I learned, man, anytime you're dealing with quick, I done been there, done that, bro. Like it just take way longer when you trying to cut a short when you trying to find a shortcut. Cause then when you go down the shortcut, you realize the shortcut didn't work. And so now you got to double back and go and try to do it the right way when you just you'd have been further along doing it the right way. But now you even further in the hole because you was trying to find a quick fix. And so when I see stuff like, the credit repair stuff, and I'm not, and things of that nature, let me tell you how credit repair works. It's easy. Pay your bills on time. How do you keep good? How do you have good credit? Pay your bills on time.
That's funny.
That's the hack. That's the
Wow.
secret.
And expose the industry. Oh man.
Just pay your bills on time.
Wow.
Pay your bills on time.
That's funny.
You know, and I'm saying, of course, it's a little bit more to it than that. But but when you're hearing all this stuff, it's like, oh, what they don't want you to know, and pay me so I can show you, man, in your local market, you can easily find a nonprofit or something that will help people with their credit, and it'll be holistic, helping you, get your credit together. You don't got to pay somebody a whole bunch of money to do credit repair. Been down that path. Some of it is fraudulent, but you're using statutes and codes to get stuff removed, but you actually did take out that debt. And so now you kind of fraudulently lying about it. And so it just, because you're trying to get something fast versus like, whether you succeed in getting it done or getting stuff removed, even if you actually did not pay that, or you actually, it was your debt, and you're telling them, well, no, you need to validate that it was mine based on this law. I get it. I understand the play. I get it. But guess what is but guess what's not being addressed? You. You
Mm.
still are bringing you with that new credit, even if you are able to finesse it and get it increased. Guess what's gonna happen? It's gonna eventually end up back where it was if you hadn't learned the disciplines and the behaviors on what it take to have good credit. Because having good, first of all, let's take a step back. First, you got to understand the credit game. You get rewarded for being a good debt payer.
Mm.
You are a person that has gotten really good at paying debt and interest back to someone else, and you get rewarded. And you talk about UI and UX. Basically, the way the system works, it's gamifying credit, and and how you keep it score is having this high score, and you're getting this feeling of having good credit, and it keeps you in debt. Like, and so in order to keep a credit score, you gotta stay in debt. Like, you gotta keep the thing going, because if you pay off all your debt, eventually, you're not gonna have a credit score. And so you gotta ask yourself at the end of the day, who does this benefit me staying in this cycle of credit card, like having a good credit
Experience.
score, keep making payments? Because you'll hear people say crazy stuff like, oh, uh, take out this little loan so you can just keep it going. Like, just the stuff that you hear sometimes. Like, but let's break it down. Who who issues credit card typically?
Banks.
So okay, that's one. When you get a mortgage, who's issuing the
Bank,
mortgage?
banks.
When you have a credit card, did we say that one already?
Yep.
Okay.
The
When you
banks.
get auto loan, who issues
Mm.
auto loan?
The dealer or the bank,
But who, even if you're getting it at the dealer,
they got a
who,
bank they working with.
who's the common denominator in this one again?
The bank for sure.
What else can we get loans on?
Shoot, anything. You heard Klarna Afterpay? You get on anything.
Uh, um, if you just go to maybe you just want to go to your bank to get a loan. You just get a little installment loan, personal signature loan, whatever. Who's
Hmm.
who is issuing that to you?
The bank.
So you're hearing a common denominator in all these things. Who else is a common denominator in this thing?
The payer.
The person that's paying back the debt and the interest. So guess what you are? An asset to the bank. And
Yep.
you just keep making payment. And so basically what happens is you got money coming in and it's flying out the door. This credit card. Student loans, student loan payments. And you can't forgive that. You are like, you can't even shake through that. Like, so all these things, and you start to realize, like, oh, I got money coming in and it's just going out to all these different places, and it's like death by a thousand cuts. So whether you make 150, whether you make 100, whether you make 75, 50, whatever. And that's why when you see some of these articles where it's like six figures still check to check, and it's only because the person just got nicer things now. They riding around, in the Benzo. They riding around,
Yep.
got probably have more student loan debt. They probably have lifestyle creep that's done creeped in because they've worked hard to get where they are. And so now they have a certain lifestyle that they're trying to keep up. Then they got a nice house or mortgage, you know what I'm saying? Like, that they responsible for. And then when you throw kids in the mix, if they got a family, then you got daycare. You got like, and so like when you start doing the math, you're like, oh, okay, this is real. Like, you ain't got no more money. And then you check the check.
Yep. You know, kind of makes me think about, like, as I went through this process of finding housing in a very competitive market like Boston. And I was thinking specifically about on housing, like, especially they look at a number of things, and income is one of them. But income isn't the only thing for a reason. They don't only look at your income and say, okay, this person makes six figures. Well, cool. All right, well, just give it to them. There's a reason they're asking for a credit, this or that. You know what I'm saying? Did you have a previous landlord that we can talk to? It's because, like you said, I'm noticing my takeaway from that is that that's probably true with, I mean, housing is just, it's relevant because that's probably your biggest expense, but just
Yeah.
for most things, housing and beyond, if you have the income, they'll there's usually no further like qualification. You get what I'm saying? Like, oh, okay. And so it's up to you to still be able to say, okay, yes, I'm making this money. That don't mean I gotta spend just, and I can spend it all. They're gonna let me. They're gonna certainly let me come spend it with them because I make the money. So I guess like what they're going to be saying, that's normal. Like, it's normal to, well, I don't know if it's normal to make that much, but it's normal to, if you're making that much. I don't know if it's normal to be talking like we're talking about budgeting, putting away 401k, Rothing.
Pay
I think it's
yourself
normal to
first.
say,
Pay
I
yourself
don't know.
first.
Mm-mm.
Get 6 12 month emergency fund, run rate, invest, open up a brokerage account, max out your 401k if you can, or build your way up. Really just build up some money for yourself for your future. And why all the while make more money. And so yeah. Okay. So with that being said, I want to take us here. I'm gonna do a quick screen share real quick because now, I mean, we talked about what it looked like in the pitfalls and the traps. So I came across this article. I had to
Mm.
read through it a little bit because I was like, I don't know what uh this food.com. I didn't really know like if it was legitimate or not. But I was kind of reading through the article. I'm like, okay, I could kind of get with it. Sound uh all right, so the number one way for average Americans to become millionaires, unless you like a business owner, you doing your thing, but you're not. You're working your 9 to 5 job. So let's keep it real. It don't mean that you can't be. Maybe you got a side hustle, some other thing, but let's keep it real. You got your 9 to 5 job right now. So let's look at it from that lens, and that's why I'm sharing it with you. And so they're speaking to the average American to become millionaires. So let's break it down. Let's see what the article is talking about, and then we'll add some commentary to it. So the key points: a study found that 49% of self-made millionaires get there by saving and investing at least 20% of their income. It takes time and consistency. The people in this savers investor group accumulate their wealth over 32 years on average. Think about
Wow.
that. 32 years. Saver investors live frugally, purchase high quality products that are built to last, and stay out of credit card debt. So, the most popular path to becoming a millionaire. So, they did a study, Rich Habit study. Uh, you've even probably heard even Dave Ramsey talking about he's done studies and this and that. So,
Yeah.
there's 3 of those paths won't be an option for everyone. Well, sorry. He found that there were part of the study, he found that there were 4 common paths followed by self-made millionaires. Let's listen them out. 3 of those paths won't be an option for everyone. There are virtuoso who became rich because of incredible talents, LeBron James. So everyone ain't doing that. There are entrepreneurs who work long hours in hopes of building successful businesses. And there are company climbers who work their way up the corporate ladder, right? The next one is there's a 4th path, saver investors. They aren't born rich. They don't make big bucks. What they do is consistently save 20% or more of each paycheck. Yes, that's it. It's simple, but highly effective. It also the most popular millionaire path that was found, with 49% of self-made millionaires building wealth this way. Following the saver investor path to 1 million. The saver investor path may be simple, but that doesn't make it easy. 20% of your income for a month or two. The saver investor study did it much longer. It took them an average of 32 years to accumulate their wealth. That's a long time. That's a long time, which came out to an average of 3.3 million. If you can consistently save 20% of your income, you could get incredible results over time. Let's say your household makes 75,000 around the median US income. Some of that will go to taxes, although you can contribute to retirement accounts pre-tax, which will reduce your overall taxable income. Well, you assume say 20% of your take-home pay and it amounts to 12,000 per year. Here's how it would grow. Now you see how it, when I be talking to you, I'm like, bro, put money in that brokerage account, this and that, because you got to get started. You can have dreams and ambitions and goals of like, but I'm gonna start my own business and I'm gonna do this and that. Okay, that's cool. Do that too. But you got to start the baseline because at a minimal, you know you can get rich for sure in that 30-year period. What you want to try to do is how do I collapse the time?
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? And how do you collapse the time? Business, start a business, make more money, and it's start a profitable business while you working your job. And again, like my CPA said, you focus on making as much money as you possibly can, because then it's not just 20%. Think about what if you doubled it, and now you making so much money and your overhead is covered. You're able to still move around how you want to move, and maybe you doing 40% into investments.
Mm.
That'll collapse the time.
For sure.
You know, habits of successful. Now let's talk about some of the habits of successful saver investors. The following are important rules: same house, same property, same car. New homes, new cars are expensive. So are divorces. The average cost of a divorce is 11,300, and the median
Ooh.
is 7,000. That's a lot of money not to be saved. All right. Habits, key habits. Saver investors. They live frugally. They don't fall into the trap of spending money to impress other people.
I
They
like that.
they purchase high quality products. Even
Mm.
though they're frugal, they're willing to spend on products that will last, such as reliable cars and well-made furniture. They stay out of credit card debt. That's self-explanatory because that interest gonna kill you. Even with it being unsecured, it'll take you forever to not have to pay it. Your credit jacked up, and we talked about what it looks like when you have bad credit. Everything else is gonna go up. You get a car, your auto is gonna be higher. So like that, you don't want to go down that path. They hang out with other saver investors. Being around people with the same goals helps saver investors stay on the right track. It's funny that you say that because my boy um, that I had coffee with yesterday after I worked out, we met at Financial Peace University. Uh,
Mm.
him and like it was me and my wife and him and his wife. We all together and we're all friends to this day. But that's how we met. And then when we meet, we talking personal development, we talking about finances, life, family, we talk about all things, but like absolutely hanging around with like-minded people who's doing other things that you aspire to do, that you are doing. And so because what it does, it reaffirms going down the right path. They're not
Right.
they're not afraid. Okay, they hang it. Yeah, they're not afraid to ask for help. Again, CPA. I reached out to my CPA, got help with my taxes, and we got things that we can do to make it better. Only a small percentage of people start successful companies or earn a huge salary because of their special talents. Most follow a more accessible path to wealth. It takes time and hard work, but if you're willing to put in that work, saving and investing could turn you into a millionaire. What are your thoughts when you hear
I just think
when you hear that? Because that is really the reality. When you hear people say, "Oh, I'm gonna start a business and it's gonna be a multi-million-dollar business," I'm rooting for you. I'm really rooting for you. Oh, I'm gonna make 500,000, $500,000 in my job. But realistically, go look up the numbers. The total household median income is $70,000 on an individual level. And I'm throwing like loose out there, but if you look, it's not far off because I've looked at it 20 times. A single person, because we're black, so I'll just go with that. A black African male, they're in that $45,000 range, 40-ish. A black female around the same, like it. And so when you're looking at these numbers, but then when you're looking at IG, you might even be watching YouTube, and you like, and everybody out here getting to the bag. Everybody ain't out here getting to the bag.
mm,
not the way that not the way that you're thinking. And then even when it's people quote unquote making six figures, they still check. Some of them are still check to check, even with them being a smaller pool of people that have made it to that level. And then of course you got people that are, entrepreneurs making, making more money than that. But not all entrepreneurs, and don't get it twisted, not all business owners make make sometimes you might may be making more on your job than someone is making in their struggling business. Now, if you do have that business and it's booming, you have a phenomenal opportunity. If you are making six figures, you have a phenomenal opportunity. But now, what if you're making six figures and you get a business? You might be cooking with some gas right there. But I know that's not everybody's story, but it can be something aspirational. Heck, maybe you're making 50 and then you find a side hustle and then maybe you match what you're making. You making more money. So like it's so many different ways to skin it, cut it, flip it, you know. But the biggest thing is you gotta make more money. Or you gotta
Yep.
reduce your dreams.
Yep. I
Because
think
it take money to fund it.
it does. That's true. I really like that list because I think that a lot of that stuff on that list, because see, I think the trap that a lot of people get caught up in is, well, I'm gonna wait till I start making all that money, then I'm gonna get an advisor because it really ain't nothing to manage right now, or I don't need to do all that yet. But that stuff can happen now, or you don't have to go pay for an advisor, but hey, put your ear to the ground and see if there's any free sessions. Are there any seminars? Or, take the initiative upon yourself to want to go learn because like having a CPA on your team, like just with me working, I work very close with CPAs and bankers, and I can just see on the personal side and on the business side just how valuable it is having such a good, like having those good people on your team as a connection, like just how they can open doors for you. Having a good business banker relationship or a good CPA who can like they told you, you just focus on breaking it up, and I'll focus on organizing and getting it clean and all that. I'll do that, but I think that it's kind of like how you said people kind of I guess they treat their backup plan. They're going to fall back on I'm going to start a business. I'm going to do all this. Like you said, that's great, but either way, whether no matter how you make the money, the way I see it, like you're saying, I don't care how you make the money. I don't care if you found $100,000 outside in a bag of a duffel bag. You, you're not going to have any of that when it comes to retirement age if you don't put any of it up. So regardless of how you make the money, you
Right.
need to develop those habits of putting away, like the article said, at least 20% or more of each time you find some money.
Right, right. And that's speaking to the paying yourself first, right? The pay yourself principle, that's a wealth principle. The Richest Man on Babylon. Check out that book. It's a good wealth principled book, you know. And so yeah, man, that's why we do this show. We want to encourage people, and let's be clear. I get it. Like some people might be there already and they're doing it, but then maybe you need to maybe this is encouragement for you to take it up another level, take it up another notch, right? But then maybe you're not at that point, and that's okay. But if you're striving to do more, be more, have more, be, do, have, you got to be first. You got to be wealthy. You got to think wealthy. You got to start moving wealthy. You got to know that's who you are so you can be, and then because then you're doing, and then you will have. A lot of times people say, oh, well, I'll wait till I have it. No, that's not really how it works. You know
Mm,
what I'm saying? And so
right.
like with your finances, if you got $100, pay yourself 10, get in the habit of that. And then what happens is because it's percentages, and as the money increases, because it's already built into your practice and your principles, it's gonna automatically be built in. It's no different from someone saying, "Oh, well, I really can't give 10% of my income away because I don't have enough." Well, if you can't give away that, I'm talking about on the inverse of giving now, but like if you can't give away 10% of $100, you're not going to give away 10% of $1 million. There's no way.
Uh-uh.
You're gonna be like, man, man, what? Like 100,000.
Sheesh. Mm-mm. Who? Yeah, it, you like you got to start at some point. At some point, 'cause it's never gonna feel good, and it's kind, and that's just with any. I guess it's just with most areas of life. You gotta just stand up because I mean, same thing with the taxes. I know that check didn't feel good, but it feels a lot better than trying to, because you were mature enough to say, okay, it costs to be a boss, I got to pay this. You didn't say, I got to cut corners by any means necessary. That kind of reminds me of Psychology of Money. He talks about how in one part these people that are already multimillionaires, already billionaires, how it took that it was their greed that said, you know what, I need to go from 1 billion to 10 billion, and that's what caused their empire to collapse. That those type of things. It's that greed because at that point it's not a numbers thing. You don't need no more money after that point. So what is it that's driving you? You got to make sure that that desire that's driving you is pure because if not, you don't want to fund nothing crazy.
Facts, right? So, and to that point, the other thing that we want to make sure we are continuously working towards is character, right? Like character, operating from principles, and hey, we're not perfect, but that's what we bring into this channel, man. The underpinning, that we're talking about finances, but we're talking about working to have good character, working to be a great husband, striving to be a great husband and growth, like always looking to get better, do better, be better, have better. Um, and then of course having like goals that you're pursuing that you believe in, uh, and whatever that is for you, that's for you, you know. But yeah, man, that's that I just want to encourage people that Rome wasn't built overnight, like we say, just one step at it, one day at a time, one step at a time. And the biggest thing is, which is helpful, and I think one of the articles spoke to it, is a community. So what we're doing is we're building a cute community of folks that are looking to continue to level up in life, and we can do that together and encourage each other. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But I had some other articles. I'm gonna hold those. I'm gonna keep those in the archive. I might bring them out at another time. Uh, I think this is a good stopping point for us. I think uh, episode 4 is in the books. Feeling good about it. Um, but we're gonna let y'all go. Um, any parting words?
Thank you guys for tuning in. Hopefully by the time you guys see this, I'll have gotten confirmation on the housing. So if not, if you haven't heard, pray for me. If so, send the congratulations. Let's celebrate together. Y'all kind of in the process with us. So it's an honor to have y'all. Thanks for tuning in.
All right. Well, we'll see y'all next week.